A COVID health emergency in India called for emergency support from around the world. The UK government has been keen to itemise the urgent assistance it offered. But now this programme can reveal ministerial concerns that donations of PPE, oxygen generators and ventilators could have a knock-on effect on other international aid spending. Here at the Treasury, officials are insisting that any COVID-related spending has to come within the overall aid budget. With that budget now capped at 0.5% of gross national income, some Conservative MPs and even ministers fear that sending medical equipment to countries like India could lead to yet more cuts in other areas of aid spending to keep within budgetary limits.
Well, it's hugely impactful on our aid programmes because we have a set structure but with a range of different projects that we fund, and suddenly throwing in medical aid and assistance to countries around the world jeopardises the future programmes that are currently running.
Whitehall sources have suggested the Health Department wanted to send 1.6 million pieces of PPE, soon due to expire, to India. But they were held up as the Treasury insisted they'd have to count towards overall aid spending. The Treasury has already slashed billions from the overseas aid budget, cutting it from 0.7% of gross national income, that's £15 billion, to 0.5%, a decline of £4 billion. Boris Johnson has always suggested the reduction is only temporary, but charities say humanitarian, health and education aid overseas all face deep spending reductions. At today's Downing Street press conference, the Health Secretary emphasised Britain's global role in the pandemic.
The UK has probably done more than any other nation to help vaccinate the world's poorest.
Secretary of State, you spoke about standing side by side with other nations in the world. But tonight we're reporting on the Treasury's insistence that any COVID-related help that your department gives to countries like India has to come out of the UK government's overall international aid budget. Would you like the Chancellor to reconsider that?
Well, of course we're helping other countries around the world, including India. And of course it counts as overseas development aid because it is.
Aren't you then risking cuts to other international aid projects?
Oh no, we have a very generous aid budget overall, 0.5% of our GDP. And I think this is exactly the sort of thing that we should be deploying in terms of aid, helping other countries around the world. But obviously it is aid. I mean, that's just by definition. If you send aid to another country, it counts within the Overseas Development Assistance Budget, as it's technically called.
The government's £548 million contribution to the COVAX vaccines sharing scheme is already classed as international aid. Even any surplus vaccines in future could, I'm told, be counted as part of the overall reduced aid budget. A source here at the Foreign Office told me there was a philosophical debate in government about the issue. But many MPs are keen to point out that the spread of the Indian variant is a reminder that no one in Britain is safe from COVID until the world is safe from COVID.
Why on earth are we squabbling now over which budget heading it goes under? We can do that retrospectively. Let's just try and save as many people and indeed our global reputation as we do it as fast as we possibly can.
But there is considerable support for trimming overseas aid on the Tory backbenches, and they say the public is on side.
And I suspect that the vast majority of the British public won't be asking why has he cut so much. They will probably be asking why are we still spending so much.
In a statement, the Foreign Office said the UK was the first country to deliver life-saving medical support to India to help fight COVID-19. We sent 3 oxygen generators, 1,200 ventilators and 495 oxygen concentrators in response to the Indian government's most urgent priorities. We have approached the government of India to offer excess PPE. To date, they have not requested PPE support from the UK government. A cabinet minister told us the Treasury's refusal to budge on the aid cap had complicated department's attempts to extend a helping hand to the developing world. It's also fuelled the rebellion by Conservative MPs who fear Britain's generous reputation overseas is being undermined.